Shalom Israel, Shalom, Shalom. Brother Naquam, watchman for Israel, coming back at you with these precepts and another cold cut to giving, of course, our honor and our glory to Yahweh. By Shema Mashiach Umalak Yabushai. Double honors to the elect elders of the house of David that's been in this truth for decades and decades, patiently waiting for the second coming of Mashiach Yabushai. A hearty, mighty shalom to all of the mighty men of the Most High God who are out there in the highways and byways, pushing this truth, magnifying the ministry, presenting their body as a living sacrifice, and enduring all things for the elect's sake. Shalom, shalom. Shalom to all of the men that may not be out there in the highways and byways as of yet, but they're working on it. They're getting built up in the spirit. They're praying, they're fasting, they're studying, they're being diligent and abounding in the work of the Lord. Shalom, shalom. Shalom to all of the Aquath out there, the sincere sisters out there, holding it down in the households, reverencing their husbands, being submissive and diligent, and moving in the spirit of our righteous foremother. Shalom, shalom. Shalom to everybody tuning in live from Egypt to Israel, Cape Paradise, Kyoko Banyamyan, the Don Israel, Judah in the house, Sweet Styles, Nahum Yasha'Allah, Shalom King, Shalom Marquaz, Shalom, Yeshab Rael, Caleb Way T, Lady of Zion 101, Mike Jones, and everybody else tuning in and that will tune in, Lord willing, through the spirit and power of Yahweh by Shema Mashiach Umalak Yabushai. It's another Monday Night Fire, how to keep the Feast of Trumpets. And we do not care about 9/11, straight up and down. How to keep the Feast of Trumpets. And we, when I say we, hopefully I'm speaking of all of us, we don't give a damn about what befell Babylon the Great. When I say we don't give a damn, I'm speaking about this society, right? And this day of remembrance for those who lost their lives, and the Edomites who jumped out the tower, and those. Yeah, and guess what, bro? Right? We do care about the siege of Jerusalem in 70 AD. We do care about 586 BC, right? We do care about all of the dates that befell us as a people, man. Right? But this damn, oh, well, take a moment of silence. We're not taking a moment of silence, man. Oh, we'll just be quiet. Can you just do it, please? No, that's what they're saying. Can you just do it, please? Can you bow your head and give America, 30 seconds of silence, a minute of silence? So we're going to touch on that. We're going to touch on how to keep the Feast of Trumpets. First, just because that feast day draws nigh, right? That feast day draws nigh in the land of the living, right? That is the feast of the memorial blowing of the trumpets. That is September 14th at sundown. September 14th at sundown. That is the Feast of Trumpets. And brothers may not know how to keep the Feast of Trumpets. So we're going to dive into it through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashmi Yahushua. Right, let's go right into it. Let's go into Leviticus. Right, let's see if I can pull this up. All right, bear with me. Let's go into the book of Leviticus, the 19th chapter. This is lucky, the 23rd chapter, right, in verse 23. Right, for those who may not know briefly how to keep the memorial of the blowing of trumpets. Right, Leviticus chapter 23, which contains a great majority of our high holy days. About 95% of every high holy day is found in Leviticus 23, with the exception of the Day of Simon, destruction of Nicanor, Feast of Dedication, and Purim. All right. So it reads, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, saying, in the 7th month, and the first day of the month, shall ye have a Sabbath, a memorial of blowing of trumpets and holy convocation. So the 7th month starts September, so-called September 14th at sundown, right? And this is a new moon. This is the highest new moon that you have throughout all of the new moons. You only get 12 of them, right? You get 12 so-called moons or months a year. And your 7th moon, right, and the first day of that month is the feast of the memorial of blowing of trumpets, and it is a Sabbath. You see that? And it is a memorial of blowing of trumpets, and it's also in a holy convocation. Right? We'll touch on that. Ye shall do no servile work therein, but ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. So what is this feast day about? Well, first and foremost, it falls on the 7th month. Now, the 7th month It's a spiritual month because 7 deals with completion or perfection. 7 days in a week, right? With Yahweh Bashima Mashakom like Avashai, the seventh day is a day of rest, right? We go into that number 7, quite often, right? We'll go into it a little bit more, right? Let's get a quick precept dealing with the number 7 on a spiritual level. Let's go to Joshua, right? Joshua, the 6th chapter. Quick precept dealing with that number 7. Joshua chapter 6, right, in verse 4. I'll start at 3. And ye shall compass the city, all ye men of war, and go round about the city once. Thus shalt thou do 6 days. So before Jericho fell, all of Israel would march around the city one time for 6 days straight. Now here's the point dealing with 7. And 7 priests shall bear before the ark 7 trumpets of ram's horns. And the 7th day you shall compass the city 7 times, and the priest shall blow with the trumpets. So you have 7 trumpets of ram's horns. On the 7th day, the city was compassed 7 times. So that number 7, it's a very weighty number in the eyes of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. Right, let's go to Proverbs chapter 6. Right, this is Proverbs chapter 6 and 16. These 6 things that the Lord hate, yea, 7 are an abomination unto him. See that? So the Lord hates 7 things. So that 7th month is a very spiritual month, the highest month or the highest moon out of all of the moons. Now, in agriculturally speaking, it's a sign of the end of the year. All right, because during this time, it may not be the end of your annual year, but around the 7th month, it kicks off the end of your agricultural year. Remember, we're a people of labor, a people of horticulture, husbandry. You understand? Agriculture, right? We dealt with animals, we dealt with crops and wheat and barley, and we dealt with particular seasons and tides and planting corn and wine. And during this time, this trumpet kicks off. It's also a reminder that it's the end of the so-called year and that harvest is only about 2 weeks away, right? Now, it reads, shall ye have a Sabbath? So on the memorial blowing of the trumpets, it is a Sabbath. You must go through the stipulations of the Sabbath and the restrictions of physical activity the same way you would a weekly Sabbath. Meaning what? No buying, no selling, no cooking. Well, Slaki, you could cook on this feast day, right? Let me rephrase myself because this is a feast day, right? You could cook on this feast day, as well as no selling, right? No buying, no selling, all right, and no servile work, meaning no work for hire, right? That's what servile work is. When you go to Exodus, so you can cook on that feast day, right? It is a holy convocation, but there's no servile work that should be done or that can be done on that day, right? This is the book of Exodus, chapter 12 and 16. And the first day, there should be a holy convocation. Now, this is dealing with the Feast of Unleavened Bread, right? And then the 7th day, there should be a holy convocation to you. No manner of work shall be done in them, save that which every man must eat. That only may be done of you. Meaning the only work that can be done on that feast day is the day that goes into prepping and cooking that food and carrying that food and the burdens of slaying that beast and doing these offerings and eating this food. That's what it means, save. Save means accept. No manner of work can be done because it's a Sabbath. You know, the only work that can be done is the work that goes into what every man must eat. So you have to, in the ancient world, you would kill that, slaughter that ox. That would take work. You got to carry that meat. You got to clean it out. You didn't just have instant ox like they do now, man. Or whatever you want to get, instant ready. You had to kind of get that work in to kill them animals in the ancient world, man, and cook them. So that was the only work that was permissible on a Sabbath. That's the only work that only may be done of you, right? And also no buying anything, right? Remember in the ancient world, everybody was gathering. It's a holy convocation, right? They were gathering together through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. and that is a memorial of blowing of trumpets, right? So, what is the definition of memorial, right? Let's see, memorial definition. Okay, memorial. Something, especially a structure, established to remind people of a person or event, right? A monument, a statue, a plaque, right? These are all synonyms, right? Remembrance, testimonial, memento, tribute. So when you are keeping this feast day, you are being reminded. That's what you do when you look at a memorial. When people go to the so-called Holocaust Museum, or people go to the Statue of Liberty, or they go to these relics and monuments in America, they are reminded, right? That's what a memorial does. It reminds you of what happened in time past. So in this feast day, you are to remember particular blowings of the trumpets, right? And then you're also remembering what you have read, because there are more future prophecies as well that speak about the blowing of the trumpets. All right. Now let's go to the book of Numbers, chapter 10. Right. Let's go to Numbers. So the memorial blowing of the trumpets is not a day just to blow your shofar real loud. Right. It's not a competition who could do, rack up the most decibels, man. Right? You get the little machine that read the decibels. Then the next brother come in, he blow his shofar, and they gauge. Oh, brother, that's only 95. Then the next brother blow his shofar, and then it ramp up to 100. And then every brother kind of write their numbers down. You get three. No, man. It's not about just being loud and blowing the shofar. And every brother needs to get a shofar. Right? We'll touch on that. We'll pull out a shofar, Lord willing. We'll talk about this thing. Right? So this is Numbers chapter 10 and 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Make thee 2 trumpets of silver, of a whole piece shalt thou make them. Right? Salakia. It reads, That thou mayest use them for the calling of the assembly and for the journeyings of the camps. And one of the first accounts of trumpets being blown or being used or even documented for usage is in the book of Numbers, the 10th chapter, where the Most High told Moses to make 2 silver trumpets, and they were used for what? For the calling of the assembly. Meaning when we were out there in the wilderness and we were scattered abroad, and there was a particular event that had to happen, right? Or a message that had to be delivered, or a decree that had to be laid down, or a judgment that had to have been set. There was a trumpet blown, so everybody can know, hey, look, it's time. Hey, this person, this person is about to be stoned, right? And this person is about to be, whatever, executed, burnt with fire. How do you think everybody knew how to execute judgment in the wilderness, man? When they have to stone people or do this in the ancient world. That's why we had these trumpets for the calling of the assembly. Now, the assembly is the church, right? This word assembly is also church. And you can see that in the New Testament. I'm going to go to it in the Hebrew, right? The calling of the assembly. It's not talking about the Edomites, right? And the Moabites, right? So it reads, let's see, congregation, gathering. Let's go into this etymology of the word congregation, right? So I want to get that and kind of get that definition. So here's that word congregation. All right, bear with me. See that? So the word congregation, com meaning together, and gregari meaning to collect, and a flock, or to gather the flock. So a true congregation is a flock of sheep, right? Like the Lord said in the book of let's get this in Luke 12 and 32, which means what? The only congregation could be a bunch of Israelites, because we are the flock of the Lord. You can't have a congregation of Moabites. That's called a tumult. right? That's what that's called. It's called a riot or a sedition or madness. What the hell are the Moabites doing gathering together, man? Y'all supposed to be working in the fields. There's no need for you to gather together when we're in our rightful estate. What the hell are you gathering for, man? Unless you're gathering together to serve us. But anytime these nations gather together, it's sodomy, madness, reveling, rebellion, wickedness, lust, sex, pride. Right? Let's go to Luke chapter 12 and 32. It reads, "Fear not, little flock. It is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom." So the kingdom is only for the congregation. And the congregation is the little flock. Right? That's what the word congregation means. So when you congregate, you're gathering together with other sheep. You can't congregate with a bunch of goats. Because remember, you got the sheep on the right hand, and you got the goats on the left hand. Right? So you got to kind of go into these words. Right? This is the book of St. Matthew, chapter 25, right, at verse 31. It reads, "When the Son of Man shall come in his glory, and all the holy angels with him, then shall he sit upon the throne of his glory. And before him shall be gathered all nations, and he shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd divideth the sheep from the goats. And he shall set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on the left." See that? So you're going to have another congregation, but that's going to be a flock of goats, right? Or a herd of goats. But the true congregation are the sheep being gathered together on the right hand of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, right? That's what an assembly is. An assembly is a congregation or a gathering of Israelites. All right. Now, also used by Tyndale in the 1520s to translate Greek ecclesia, and the New Testament in the sense an assembly of persons or religious worship and instruction. But that's not what that. Oh, actually, look, let's read on. Right, check this out. Also, the Christian church in general. It's not talking about just the Christian church, right? We're going to read on. The word was also was used by Wycliffe and other OT translators in place of synagogue on the notion of, quote unquote, the whole body of the Hebrews. So the true church, because that's what that word in the Greek is. The word church in the Greek is ecclesia. That's why even in the blue letter, when you go into that word in the Greek, in the concordance, it says what? Well, let's go to Acts chapter 7 and 38. "This is he," meaning Moses, "that was in the church in the wilderness with the angel which spake unto him in the Mount Sinai, and with our fathers who received the lively oracles to give unto us." Now, check out what that word church is, because everybody goes to church. Now, the word church in the Greek is ecclesia, right? Same word. And it means a gathering of citizens called out from their homes into some public place and assembly. So in the ancient world, they would blow that trumpet and all of Israel would gather together. All right. An assembly of the people convened at the public place of the council for the purpose of deliberating. So you also may blow that trumpet because there has to be a judgment set forth. Another one, the assembly of the Israelites. So the true church is the assembly of the Israelites, or a true congregation is what? The whole body of the Hebrews as a community gathered and set apart for the service of the Most High. So you can't get around that. You can't get around that, man. Right? A true church, a true ecclesia, a true congregation, and the truest assembly is the whole body of the Hebrews as a community gathered and set apart for the service of God. That's plain. So, in the ancient world, what would they do? They would blow that trumpet in one fashion for the gathering together of the Israelites, right? Through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Ba'ashima Mashiach Malak Yahushai. All right? Salakia. It reads, so let's read this. Numbers chapter 10 and 2. And on a spiritual level, because these laws are spiritual, right? These laws and even the feast days, they're very spiritual. They have a carnal aspect behind it and a historical aspect, but they have a spiritual and a prophetic aspect behind it too. But you have to have your eyes of your understanding enlightened that you can see the spiritual aspect of these laws, these statutes and commandments. Right? This is Ephesians chapter 1 and verse, let's see. Oh boy, bear with me. Maybe verse Slakia 18, that's what it is. Slakia, Ephesians chapter 1 and 18. It reads, the eyes of your understanding being enlightened, that ye may know what is the hope of his calling, and what the riches of the glory of his inheritance in the saints. So you have to have the eyes of your understanding to be enlightened when you read the law. A lot of people don't like reading the law because it's boring. This is what they say. Oh, that's boring. I want to read Revelation. That's deep. It's exciting. Right? I want to read about David slaying Goliath and Judas Maccabees and Samson. And you have to go into the law. Right? And the more you dive into the law, the more you understand the totality of the word of the Lord. Man. Right? Because you understand the spiritual aspect of the law and the purpose of what these laws mean. And that means the eyes of your understanding are beginning to be enlightened. And it's not talking about your actual eyes, right? It's not talking about your actual eyes. It's talking about your mind, right? It's talking about your mind. Right? Let's go to Psalm chapter 119 and verse 18. Right? So let's go to Psalm chapter 119 and verse 18. It reads, open thou mine eyes that I may behold wondrous things out of thy law. And you got to pray to Yahweh Basham before you open up this book. See, some people just open up the Bible. What am I going to read today? I'll read Ezekiel, right? Chapter 16. No, you can't read the Bible like that. Or some people just read the read. I'm supposed to read my 3 to 4, 5, 6, 7 chapters today. Guess I'll read. But you're not asking Yahweh Basham to open up your mind. Open up the eyes of your understanding. Ask Yahweh Basham to sup with you, man, because he will. David prayed that the Most High open his eyes, right? That links directly up with Ephesians chapter 1 and 18, that the eyes of your understanding may be enlightened. When something is enlightened, it's illuminated. Light is shed upon it and darkness is taken away, right? Open thou mine eyes that I may behold wondrous things out of thy law. So we're going to go into the wondrous things out of the law of Yahweh Basham Yahushai. So part of the wondrous things is, yeah, we know that this trumpet was used for the calling of the assembly, but that trumpet is also used for the gathering of the people as well via the word of the Most High. Not the one. Because the word of the Most High, right? Salaki, bear with me. So the word of Yahweh Basham Yahushai is likened unto a trumpet, right? It's likened unto a trumpet. Let's get that in. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 6, right? And right now we're blowing the trumpet, and it's for what? For the gathering of the Israelites. So that's why when you read that, keep that feast day. I mean, there's so many different, aspects of the blowing of the trumpet. I mean, there's a lot. And right now we are blowing the trumpet. That's why brothers are getting off the couch and joining congregations, getting off from behind the keyboard, getting off of weed, right? Crack, dope, you know, coming out of prisons, coming out of religions, politics, and every aspect of the world, because they hear that trumpet being blown, and their spirit is being charged to gather and to bring about the assembly of the Israelites, man. And who's blowing the trumpet? The men of the Lord. Just like the men of the Lord in the ancient world blew the trumpet for the calling of the assembly. And we're calling the assembly. We're calling you out of the world, calling you out of Christianity, calling the assembly out of Islam, calling some brothers from the assembly out of being a Nawapi and a 5%er and Egyptologists. We're calling the people out of the world to gather together as an exceeding great army and a spirit and power of Yahweh Bashima Mashiach, Wamalak, Yahweh Shai. All right. Jeremiah chapter 6 and verse 16. It reads, "Thus said the Lord, stand ye in the ways and see, and ask for the old paths. Where is the good way, and walk therein, and ye shall find rest for your souls. But they said, we will not walk therein." So the Most High told you, ask of the old path. So the new path is walking in the ways of sodomy. The new path is demonic sacrifice. The new path is Thanksgiving, freaking off, Halloween, right? That's the new path. The old path is walking like Abraham. The old path is walking like David and his uprightness. The old path is walking like Isaac and Jacob. You have to ask for the old path to put that in your spiritual GPS, that the Most High may lead you there. And you have to ask for the good way. But what do our people say? They say, we will not walk therein. Also, I set watchmen over you, saying, hearken to the sound of the trumpet. But they said, we will not hearken. So our people don't want to hearken to the sound of the trumpet. They don't want to hear the words of the Lord, man. They don't want to hear about an assembly coming together. The trumpet has to be blown, right? The trumpet has to be blown for the gathering of what? Of the assembly of Israelites. Right, let's go to Ezekiel chapter 37. Let's get the classic. Ezekiel chapter 37 and verse 10. It reads, "So I prophesied as he commanded me, and breath came into them, and they lived, and stood up upon their feet, an exceeding great army." Right? An exceeding great army, meaning we came together. And this is happening now. Because brothers, right now, you're listening to the word of the Lord. You're listening to that trumpet be blown. Also, this trumpet, it's not just for the calling of the assembly, it's also the journeyings of the camps. Because in the ancient world, if you looked up the camp, right? Let's type in right? Israelites in the wilderness. Camp. So we can kind of see how we were set up as a camp. He wasn't just stacked up on top of each other. So here's how we were set up. And this is a good picture right here. Right? You have 3 tribes eastward. You have 3 tribes northward, 3 tribes southward, and 3 tribes westward. It's like you had the Levitical, the Levites in the middle. And then the central, you had Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, right? And you had Moses and Aaron and the high priest. This is how the camp was set up. So when the trumpet was blown, you got to realize we weren't walking in a single file line. A lot of brothers got the wrong idea of what happened in the wilderness, as if we were just scattered abroad, walking in a single file line, like a bunch of creeps. All right, let's see if we get another map. All right, you see that? This is a good one right here. Okay, so when you look at this map, bear with me. Who's this guy? The Lord is not dealing with Tanny King. All right, we just want to get the map. All right, so you got the camp of Dan, right? And it tells you the numbers for each tribe, right? The numbers and a head count for each tribe. right? Then you have the camp of Judah. Then you have the camp of Reuben, and you have the camp of Ephraim. And there were times when Israel would be stationary, and we wouldn't leave the camp spot for days, man, until the chariot would ascend up. When the chariot ascended up, the trumpet would blow and we would march, because we're an army. We left out of Egypt as an army, harnessed up. A camp is an army. That's what it truly is. It's not little Edomite boys being touched by grown men by the oak tree as they confess their lust one to another. That's not camping. The Boy Scouts is not a true camp. A true camp is a military formation and a military agenda led by a general or a captain of an army. That's what a true camp is. And just like any camp, as you march towards your destination, and because we were marching for a slaughter, this was a military campaign. We were marching to commit a genocide on one ethnic group of people, the Canaanites. 7 nations, so-called greater and mightier than us. So we were marching to commit a genocide. They don't talk about that in Christianity. Why would Jesus Christ lead the Israelites into a genocide against the Africans? Right? Let's go to the book of Exodus, chapter 40. Right? Let's go to Exodus chapter 40. Let's go to verse 36. Right? This is the book of Exodus. I'll start at 40 and 34. Right? Exodus chapter 40 and 34. Then a cloud covered the tent of the congregation, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. And that's speaking about that light, that what we call the tractor beam, right? It would fill the tabernacle. It reads, and Moses was not able to enter into the tent of the congregation because the cloud abode thereon, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. Now here's the point. And when the cloud was taken up, so there was a huge spaceship. That's what let's type in mothership. We call it a fathership, right? But there was a huge spaceship over Israel, and it had to have been, larger than this, right? And the Lord was in that spaceship. So there's a lot that was going on in the wilderness, man, that they don't talk about at Granny Sunday service or Bible study at 9 p.m. or the women prayer warriors, right? They don't talk about that in prayer class. Or when you're in that nasty box next to that old Edomite with that hot breath, and he slide that little mouthpiece back, man. And you have to say, Father, I have sinned, right? And they don't talk about these things. There was a huge spaceship that hovered over our forefathers in the ancient world. And when that chariot would ascend up, we would see that, we would blow the trumpet, and we would have to pack our camp up, right? And get ready to march. Right? That's what we're reading about in the book of Exodus, the 40th chapter. That's what this word cloud is. It's not talking about a thundercloud. Right? The Lord said, who layeth his beams of his chambers in the waters, who maketh the cloud his chariot, who walketh upon the wings of the wind. Paraphrasing Psalms chapter 104 and verse 3. Right? So it reads, and when the cloud was taken up from over the tabernacle, the children of Israel went onward in their journeys. So they would blow that trumpet and say, march, essentially. And we would march in our journeys. But if the cloud were not taken up, then they journeyed not till the day that it was taken up. So there had to have been multiple days, maybe weeks, when we were just stationary, not moving. And then maybe 4 days later, could be the next day, a week later, that chariot would rise, and we would march in our journeys. Verse 38 in Exodus chapter 40. For the cloud of the Lord was upon the tabernacle by day, and fire was on it by night, in the sight of all the house of Israel throughout all their journeys. So it would have that tractor beam by night, and it would beam down that we can see where we were going. And it would, that light would keep the wild beast away too, because they don't want to deal with the light, you know. But Moses described it as fire was on it by night. So again, when we were in the wilderness, let's see, this is how we marched, right? And as you keep the feast of the memorial blowing of the trumpets, also about how we marched in the wilderness. What happened in the wilderness? What befell us? Right? Right now we're marching in the wilderness, and we're on a spiritual journey to the kingdom of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. And when you heard the word of the Lord, you started your journey, your walk as a stranger and a pilgrim in a land of the living. All of us are in this wilderness all over again. Babylon the Great is the wilderness, right? Let's go to the book of Isaiah, right? Chapter 35 and verse. So there's really a lot to consider as you deal with the feast days. Again, it's not just the day of just blowing your shofar real loud, right? This Isaiah 35 and verse 5. Then the eyes of the blind shall be opened, and the ears of the deaf shall be stopped. Then shall the lame man leap as an hart, and the tongue of the dumb sing. For in the wilderness shall waters break out, and streams in the desert. And right now, waters are breaking out. Living water. The truth is flowing out of the rock. Who's the rock? Yahweh. Bashem Yahushua. And the parched ground shall become a pool, and the thirsty land springs of water. And the habitation of dragons, where each lay, shall be grass with reeds and rushes. So that's vegetation, growth. We are that growth coming out of the earth, right? We are those men coming out of the world, being saturated by that moisture and causing us to grow up as grass with reeds and rushes. And this, what is this land called? A thirsty land. Let's go to Psalms chapter 63. Right? This is Psalms chapter 63 and verse 1. O God, thou art my God. Early will I seek thee. My soul thirsteth for thee. My flesh longeth for thee in a dry and thirsty land where no water is. And America is that dry and thirsty land. We just read about it in Isaiah chapter 35. Where's the living water at? It's scarce. Where only few souls can find this. And those are the men and daughters of Zion that are in this truth. This is a dry and thirsty land. Our people are dehydrated. And when you're dehydrated, you stumble. Right? And that's why they're into all these religions and doctrines, going through all these doors and of lust and folly. When you're dehydrated, you don't think straight. That's why they say I love the so-called white man. I have voted for my president, and I'm an American citizen. And I can't wait till Halloween because they're thirsty. And you also become delusional. And when you're extremely dehydrated, you become fatigued. And some people see mirages when you're thirsty. A mirage is an illusion when your mind start working against you, having you see things that's not really there. That's why the so-called Negro, Hispanic, and Native American man, you see salvation in America. You see this as a place of rest. You see palm trees here. You see this land that's not a thirsty land, but a highly vegetated land of rest and satisfaction and pleasure. Because you are seeing a mirage. You are delirious because you are thirsty. And you have not received the living water of Yahweh Bashem and Mashiach Wamalak Yahushua. You are going to die in this thirsty land lest you repent and come back to your God. So you are in that wilderness again. But when you heard that trumpet, you started your journey out of this wilderness to go to the promised land. Right? Remember, we are strangers and pilgrims in the earth. Right? Let's get that in 1 Peter chapter 2. Right? So that trumpet is blown. 1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 11. I'll start at 10. Which in time past were not a people, but are now the people of the Most High, which had not obtained mercy, but now have obtained mercy. Dearly beloved, I beseech you, as what? As strangers and pilgrims, abstain from fleshly lust, which war against the soul. Now, the point is, the Most High called us pilgrims, right? Let's go into this word pilgrim. What is a pilgrim? Right? Now, that word in the Greek is peripatamos. Now, it means, check this out. I'm going to get this definition. One who comes from a foreign country and to a city or a land to reside there by the natives. Didn't this happen to us? We live by these so-called Edomites and these other nations. We came from a foreign country. What foreign country did we come from? The land of Israel. We came from Jerusalem, Galilee, Mount Hebron, Bethsaida, Bethany, right? We came from these different places. Now we dwell amongst these natives, right? Check this out. In the New Testament metaphor, and in reference to heaven as their native country, one who sojourns on earth. And that's a deep metaphor, and it's true, right? That's why the Lord said we are citizens in heaven, right? Let's get that. Colossians, I believe that's Philippians chapter 3. Right? Actually, we want Colossians. Right? This is, I want this precept, but there's another one I want, right? This Colossians chapter 3 and verse 1. Right? Let me get this precept. It reads, if ye then be risen with Hamashiach, seek those things which are above, where Hamashiach sitteth on the right hand of the Most High. Right? So we're not looking for things on the earth. We're looking for things in the heavens. Right? We're looking for spiritual things because we are pilgrims looking to be back to our homeland, Jerusalem. Right? Let's go to Philippians. Right? Chapter 3. I had it right the first time. Through the Spirit. Philippians chapter 3 and verse 20. For our conversation is in heaven, from whence also we look for our Savior, the Lord Yahweh Shah HaMashiach. So we're pilgrims, man. We're not looking at earthly things. That's what this is. Philippians 3 and 19. Whose end is destruction, whose God is their belly, and whose glory is their shame, who mind earthly things. A pilgrim is not looking to make one place home. Right? A pilgrim is on a journey. That trumpet was blown, and now we're no longer minding earthly things. The same way our forefathers should have not minded Egypt. Right? Their mind should have been towards the promised land. But what happened to those who minded earthly things, who minded Pharaoh, the leeks, the melons, right? One in the stone Moses and appointed captain over them. What happened to those people? They died. Right? The trumpet was blown to march towards the promised land, and they died, man. Because they minded earthly things. Right? You have to mind spiritual things. You're a pilgrim. That trumpet is blown. You heard the words of the Lord. Rather, you heard Deuteronomy 28:68, Revelation chapter 1 to 14, Ezekiel 30, whatever scripture you heard, that was the trumpet being blown, and it was time for you to make your journey. You can no longer mind earthly things. You can no longer mind Egypt. This is a memorial of the blowing of the trumpets, a reminder of your journey, a reminder of the calling of the assembly, a reminder of you being a pilgrim, a reminder of you to get your mind right and focus on the kingdom of heaven, man. Right? Let me read this again. Philippians chapter 3 and 19. Whose end is destruction, whose God is their belly, and whose glory is in their shame, who mind earthly things. For our conversation is in heaven, from whence also we look for the Savior, the Lord, Yahweh Shai HaMashiach. Now you go into this word conversation. Right? Let's go into that word conversation. Because the Most High said that we should have our conversation is in heaven. Word conversation in the Greek, palatuma, It reads, let's see, the administration of civil affairs or of a commonwealth, the commonwealth of citizens, a community, right? Citizenship. So it's really, when it says conversation, it's talking about a community, a state, a kingdom, a citizenship. Our citizenship is truly in Jerusalem, truly in heaven, right? Meaning we're with Yahweh Bashmi Yahushua. We're not looking to be here on the earth. So every time you hear this word, you should be reminded to be on your path and your journey, that old path. That's what the Moses said, ask of the old way. You know, where's the good path? For the Proverbs chapter 4, right? Proverbs chapter 4 and verse 22. Actually, I'll start at 25. Proverbs chapter 4 and 25. Let thine eyes look right on, and let thine eyelids look straight before thee. Meaning, don't look back. Don't look back in the world. Don't look back into Egypt. Don't look back at your old man. Don't look back at who you used to be. Don't look back at your, God knows who, man. Your eyes are looking right on. You got blinders on, right? You're a pilgrim, right? A pilgrim, and really the thing about a pilgrim is they have their mind made up. Pilgrims are spiritual people. See, it's the difference between a nomad, a vagabond, and a pilgrim, right? Well, what is a nomad? They have no purpose, right? Or a vagabond. They have no purpose. Esau is a vagabond. He just goes from place to place, and he rape, robs, murders, and destroys. We are pilgrims. What is a pilgrim, right? There's a huge difference. Let's actually get these definitions. What is it? What is a nomad? Right? A roamer. What the a roamer? A person who does not stay long in the same place. So it's like a beast, right? That's a nomad, right? They just up and leave. Now let's pull up the definition of a pilgrim, right? Let's see the difference. For a pilgrim, a person who journeys to a sacred place for religious reasons. See, Esau is a nomad. That's how Cain was set up from the beginning. A fugitive and a vagabond shalt thou be in the earth. That was the curse put on Cain for the murder of his brother Abel. One of the many curses rightfully imputed unto him by his maker. And then you have a pilgrim. This is somebody who's fully convinced as a believer in Yahweh Bashmi Yahushua. They're looking for the kingdom of heaven. They have hope on the Creator, right? A worshiper, a devotee. Hold on, let me go back. Salakia, right? See that? A worshiper, a devotee, a believer. You see that? So this is a beautiful definition right there. And you see the difference between a nomad and a pilgrim, right? Let's get one more. What is a vagabond? Because that's what Esau really is. Look at this. This is the worst one. Right? A person who wanders from place to place without a home or a job, right? So that's Esau. Why doesn't Esau really have a home? Because he was made to be destroyed. Is he not a vessel fitted for destruction? Is he not supposed to be chased out of the earth, pursuant to the book of Job? He really doesn't have a home. Or you can say, well, hold on, I thought he was from the Caucasus Mountains. Or I thought he was from Europe. Well, first of all, he's not from Europe. No, well, he's Italian, he's French. He's not from there. That's not his home. Then they say, well, he's Caucasian. Well, he's not from the Caucasus Mountains. That's what he's telling you Negroes and Hispanics and Native Americans today. Now, if our people had somewhat understanding of the scriptures, they would say, well, he's from Mount Seir. But really, the Most High said that they don't have a home because they're not from here. They're not supposed to be on the earth. They're only put here on the earth temporarily to do two things, two purposes: to play the wicked, then be destroyed. They don't have a home. They're not going to have a land allotted to them in the day of the Lord. Their land is going to be given to Israel. Read Obadiah, the 1st chapter. Read Amos, the 9th chapter. Read Ezekiel 46. Read Ezekiel 47. And give me the place that Esau is going to inherit when Yahweh rules the earth. Give me his home. Is he going to dwell back in Mount Seir? No. Is he going to dwell in Europe? No. There is no account of Esau having any place of land attributed to his nation when Yahweh rules the earth, because he's a vagabond. He doesn't have a home. He's going to be exterminated off the face of the earth, man. Right? This is the book of Job, right? Chapter 18, Shalakia, and verse, let's see where I want to start. See that. Oh boy, bear with me. 18 and verse 17. Job chapter 18 and 17. So we're pilgrims. We are not vagabonds. All right. His remembrance shall perish from the earth, and he shall have no name in the streets. Right now, Esau got names in the streets. Half of these streets named after him. John Street, Williamson Street. He's not going to have no places in the streets. No ownership of any land is going to be to him. Right? Here's what we really want. He shall be driven from light into darkness and chased out of the world. We're going to chase him out of the world. I mean, he's not going to be here. He shall have neither son nor nephew among his people. Now, here's the point. Nor any remaining in his dwelling. So he'll finally fulfill that vagabond. No home. Right? No home for the so-called white man, because he'll be out of the earth. Now, that's a vagabond. We are a pilgrim, right? A person who journeys to a sacred place. What is a sacred place? The kingdom, right? Jerusalem, if you can understand. And this is for what they call religious reasons, man. See, they put religious reasons. It's really to magnify the name of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, right? To establish a kingdom on the earth. Right? The Lord's Prayer. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. So our purpose, a part of our pilgrimage and our mind is for Yahweh's will to be done in earth the same way Yahweh's will is being done in heaven. There is order in heaven. There's structure in heaven. There's rank in heaven. There is rulership in heaven. There is peace in heaven. There's sovereignty in heaven. And we want that same will to be displayed on the earth. That's what we're part of. That's part of our pilgrimage, man. Right? So let's go back to Numbers, the 10th chapter. Right? Let's go back to Numbers. Actually, I want to get this in Hebrews, 11th chapter. Right? Hebrews chapter 11. All right, this Hebrews chapter 11 and verse 13. Right? Hebrews chapter 11 and verse 13. It reads, these all died in faith. Speaking about our forefathers, right? And foremothers. These all died in faith, not having received the promises, but having seen them afar off, and were persuaded of them, and embraced them, and confessed that they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth. And a lot of brothers don't want to confess that because they really love it here. Hey, I confess I am a pilgrim here, man. I don't belong to America. You don't belong here, man. You don't belong in America, Jamaica, Haiti, England. You belong in your land. And you have to confess that. You have to accept the fact that you are a pilgrim because you have heard the trumpet blow. You heard the trumpet blow. You heard the warning of the Lord. You have to admit that, man. See, a lot of brothers don't want to admit that they're pilgrims. Because what's the life of a pilgrim? The life of a pilgrim ain't easy. Life of a pilgrim ain't fun, lad. You know? And Yahweh Shah said in Luke, the 9th chapter, right? Let's go to Luke chapter 9. About him and his ministry. This is St. Luke chapter 9, right? And verse 57. Right? Luke 9 and 57. And it came to pass that as they went in the way, a certain man said unto him, Lord, I will follow thee whithersoever thou goest. Right? Sounds good. Here's what Yahweh Shah said. And Yahweh Shah said unto him, foxes have holes, and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man hath not where to lay his head. Right? Meaning what? The Most High had a particular mission for Yahweh Shah. He didn't have a comfortable life. His life was hard. That's what he's saying. If you're going to follow me, life is going to be hard. You will not be able to check in every night at a 5-star hotel. You will not live in a mansion, right? You will not live in luxury. You will not be on a Forbes 500 list. You will not be a damn multi-millionaire or billionaire. The beast at times in this ministry, they will live better than you. The birds, they will live better than you at times. They'll be more comfortable mentally than you will be as you follow me. You may be stressed, anxious. You may deal with adversity, obstacles. The foxes, they will reside in the night season in their holes, man. The birds in the night season, they will go to their nest. But the Son of Man, when it's nighttime, he hath not where to lay his head. This is the nighttime. You lay your head when it's nighttime. This is the time of beast and darkness. This is the time of war on the earth, man. This is the time of pestilence. We're approaching the time of Jacob's trouble. We're approaching the nighttime. We don't have nowhere to lay our head, man. We're looking to lay our head in the kingdom of heaven. So Yahweh Shah had a hard life, man. That's the life of a pilgrim. That is the life of a pilgrim, and that is the life that our fathers confessed. Abraham was a pilgrim. Don't you know Jacob used a stone for his pillow? The same night he had a vision of the angels ascending and descending on the earth. It says he took a stone and laid it for his pillow. I'm saying he's a stranger, man. He's a pilgrim. All of our fathers had a pilgrimage. You can look it up. Abraham had a pilgrimage. He heard the trumpet. He heard the Lord. Arise, get thee to the land that I shall give thee. Isaac heard the trumpet. Boom, he had a pilgrimage. Right? You can, look these things up, man. Look up right? Let's see, journeys. And why are we going into this? Because the memorial blowing of the trumpets is also, let's see if I can find this. See, I like the one when they kind of give all three at the same time. Maybe this one. Okay, hold on. So this is Abraham's pilgrimage. He came from Ur the Chaldees. I don't like that map. But this is a better map. Okay, hold on. Right, you got to get into this geography. Right? Let's see if they got the map pulled up. All right, they're making things. That's okay. Right, but you can see they got Abraham, and this is what you call your map legend or your map key. Right here. Hold on, let me get the mighty brother Yara down there. Right, Salaki.
Shalom. You on mute, King.
Okay, Salakia. Right? So you had Abraham's journey in the red. Abraham heard the pilgrimage. You had Isaac journey in the purple. He heard the trumpet, like his father, and Jacob heard the trumpet. So all of our forefathers heard the trumpet, and they all went on their own journeys. Right? Again, going back into the memorial blowing of the trumpets. It's also a reminder of your journeyings. Right? Let me read this again. Numbers chapter 10 and verse 2. Make thee 2 trumpets of silver. Of a whole piece shalt thou make them, that thou mayest use them for the calling of the assembly. So we covered that. We're gathering together as a people, and for the journeyings of the camps. Yeah, brother saying I'm not part of a camp. Right? Well, technically, you are part of a camp because the entire nation, in the eyes of the Most High, is called a camp. Yeah, brother saying I hate camps. Right? Camps are all camp. What do they say? All camps are wicked. Right? Leave those camps. Right? The Most High is not dealing with the camps. Well, hold on now. Wasn't Moses in the camp? And Joshua and Aaron and Caleb? You know? Wasn't Miriam in the camp? They had a sisterhood in the camp. Wasn't Bezalel in the camp? And he built and constructed the Ark of the Covenant and many other holy things. So they was all in the camp. Didn't Yahweh have a camp? He's rolling with 12 apostles that carry swords. Peter had a sword on him. I'm led to believe Simon had a sword on him. They said, Lord, we bought 2 swords. Yahweh said, it is enough. So these men had these, hey, look. This is for the journeyings of the camps. Let's read on. Numbers chapter 10 and 3. And when they shall blow with them, all the assembly shall assemble themselves to thee at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And if they blow but with one trumpet, then the princes, which are the heads of the thousands of Israel, shall gather themselves unto thee. When ye blow an alarm, then all the camps that lie on the east part shall go forward. So they would blow an alarm. An alarm is a different pitch. So you would blow your trumpet, but just like any musical instrument or any instrument, you can play different notes and has different pitches. So you would blow that trumpet and it would be like a different sound. And the camps that lied on the east parts, they would start marching forward. All right. Now, what is an alarm? An alarm is a sound of war. Battle formations. Like when you watch that movie 300, right? They had the Spartans on one side, then the ground started shaking. You can see the sand coming up, you can see the gravel coming up, right? And then they say, hey, look, this is an earthquake, right? No, and then the so-called King Leonidas looked at him. He said, no, he said battle formations. Then you saw all of the Persians, and what was they doing? Blowing the trumpets, playing the drums, and it was marching for war. They were sounding the alarm. So now, as this is the memorial blowing of the trumpets, you're reminded of the alarm, because an alarm will blow in the day of the Lord. War is coming. Let's get that in Zephaniah. All right, Yahweh Shai is going to blow an alarm all over again. Right, and then once in the ancient world, that was his earthly army. Now in the spiritual world, his spiritual army is coming. Let's go to Zephaniah chapter 1, and we'll start at verse. But this is a mean chapter right here. This Zephaniah first chapter is they don't read this in the church. Right? They will not ask your pastor what is Zephaniah the first chapter going into. And how come the Lord is not treating everybody nice? How come he's not giving everybody cupcakes and playing a backgammon with them? Right? And Chinese checkers. How come the Lord isn't eating funnel cake with everybody in Zephaniah the first chapter, man? Right? Or playing damn Bop It. The Lord is getting down with war, man. Right? It reads, the great day of the Lord is near. It is near and hasteth greatly. Even the voice of the day of the Lord, the mighty man shall cry there bitterly. Yeah, the mighty men are these top generals, lieutenants, right? They're the mighty men. That day is a day of wrath, a day of trouble and distress, a day of wasteness and desolation, a day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds and thick darkness. And this is the return of our Lord, Yahweh Shai. It's not going to be a sunny day. The Lord is not going to tiptoe. Shh, come on. Esau asleep. Shh. Then he go to the next one. Shh. And he give you real soft socks. So you can kind of tiptoe right into the chariot. You know? The Lord said it's going to be a dark day. Thick clouds, thick darkness, gloomy day, trouble and distress, wasteness and desolation. Right? Zephaniah verse 1 and 16. Here's the point. A day of the trumpet and alarm against the fenced cities and against the high towers. And I will bring distress upon men, that they shall walk like blind men, because they have sinned against the Lord. And their blood shall be poured out as dust, and their flesh as the dung. So the Mosiah said that day is a day of the trumpet. So as you blow your shofar and you keep this feast day, the memorial of the blowing of the trumpets, you're also thinking about the alarm against the fenced cities of Yahweh Shai's army. Are we going to make it? The land is going to be destroyed. Am I going to get beamed up in that chariot? Right? The Mosiah is going to execute judgment upon these nations, man. These are the things you think about at the memorial blowing of the trumpets. Right? You got it, Yardan.
I ain't having it yet.
Okay, Con. So let's go back to Numbers chapter 10. Right? Numbers chapter 10 and verse 6. When ye blow an alarm the second time, then the camps that lie on the south side shall take their journeys. They shall blow an alarm for their journeys. Let's get another quick precept on the alarm. Let's go to the book of Zechariah, chapter 9. Right? This is Zechariah, chapter 9 and verse 12. It reads, turn you to the stronghold, ye prisoners of hope. Even today do I declare that I will render double unto thee. So the Most High said, turn you to the stronghold. What is the stronghold? This is the stronghold. A stronghold is a defense, like a fortress. The Lord said, turn you, meaning you might be going that way, but you need to get into this. You need to come back to the Lord. Right? Because wherever you're going, it ain't the stronghold. It ain't going to protect you or keep you alive when this place goes down. Turn to the stronghold, ye prisoners of hope. And we are prisoners of hope, man. We're bounded by hope, right? That's all we have. We are subject to hope. That's Romans chapter 8, 19 on down. The Lord said, even today do I declare that I will render double unto thee. When I bent Judah for me, filled the bow with Ephraim, and raised up thy sons, O Zion, against thy sons, O Greece, and made thee as the sword of a mighty man. So the Most High is going to turn, he's going to morph, for lack of better terms, he's going to morph the southern kingdom, which is Judah, with Ephraim, which is the northern kingdom. And he's going to turn us into a weapon of war, right? Judah is the bow, and Ephraim is the arrow. And the Most High is going to use us to destroy these other nations. What nation specifically? The Greeks. Who's the Greeks? The so-called white man. Ask any scholar when you go to Yale, Harvard, Brown, Cornell, Dartmouth, any of these Ivy League schools, what is the foundation of white civilization? They're all going to agree that white civilization started with the Greeks. That they teach it. It's part of their curriculum. Everybody knows that. So when the Most High said he's going to raise up the sons of Israel or Zion against thy sons, O Greece, he's speaking about everybody who came out the Greeks. And if you're an Edomite, you came out the Greeks. Now you say, well, no, I'm a Roman, or I'm from France. Okay, well, look, I'm a Canadian, right? I'm from Scandinavia. Oh no, you came out the Greeks, right? You came out of the Greeks when it's all said and done anyway. And that's what you call the race war. Why would the Lord take two different races and make one race destroy another race? The Lord said he's going to make Zion as the sword of a mighty man. That means he's going to use us to kill a lot of people. Who's a mighty man that wielded a sword? Judas Maccabees, Jonathan his brother, Simon his brother, Mattathias their father, Joshua the son of Nun. Right? These men wielded swords. David, Dawad Ban Yahawada. He wielded a sword. And they killed a lot of people. Last time I checked, there was so much killing that David did that he couldn't build the temple. It was his hands was too bloody. David killed so many people, the woman made songs about it. Saul has killed his thousands, and David is 10,000s. That's how many people we're going to kill. Edomites. That's what this means. He's going to make us as the sword of a mighty man. I mean, it's going to be a bloodbath. Let's read on. And the Lord shall be seen over them. So when we're doing that, the Lord is going to be with us. So the Lord is not looking to save the so-called white man. It's a cut. You start pulling this on the highways and byways on you Christians, man. Ask them to break down Zechariah chapter 9, verse 13 to 14. Why would the Lord take one race and have them kill the sons of the Greeks? And then the Lord is going to be with us doing it. I thought the Lord came to save everybody. Then you ask them, did this happen already? You got to kind of have them build up questions. Right? Did this happen already? Oh, well, yeah, it happened. Okay, well, when did it happen? Give me the place it happened and give me the time. Okay, well, you know what happened? It happened during the time of, and they're going to try to make up something. They might say it happened during the time of the Maccabees. Then I would say, well, hold on, where was Ephraim at during the time of the Maccabees? So you can't use it. You had something there?
I was just going to say, kind of happened recently. They say we'll bring this out, Zechariah, among other prophecies written by the prophets. And they said, well, that happened already. And I always say, I got to know the time and the date. I got to.
Right.
You know, they don't expect us to say that. In similar fashion, when they say, well, we all went into slavery. White man went into slavery. Always ask for a time and a date. And, I never get a fruitful answer.
Yeah, because they don't have it. I've heard them say Obadiah 18 happened already. All the Edomites say it was been exterminated. There's no account. This says in the Lord, Zechariah 9 and 14, and the Lord shall be seen over them, Salakia, and his arrow shall go forth as the lightning. And the Lord God shall blow the trumpet. Shall blow the trumpet. And shall go with whirlwinds of the south. So the Lord is going to blow the trumpet in those days, man. Imagine here, Yahweh Shah already got a voice of many waters. Imagine, it tells you that in Revelation, right? That he heard a voice as if it were a trumpet. In Revelation, the first chapter. Right? This is Revelation chapter 1 and verse 10. Quick precept. It reads, I was in the spirit on the Lord's day and heard behind me a great voice as of a trumpet. That's how you know the word of the Lord is really a trumpet. You can't get around that. Yahweh Shah's voice is that true trumpet. that we blow every day. But imagine the Lord blowing the trumpet. Everybody's going to hear it. Right? Michael the Archangel, everybody's going to hear it. You got it, King.
Con, can you hear me?
Con,
Did you get Joel 2 already?
I did not.
It's Joel chapter 2, verse 1.
I'm going to pull it up on the
Blow
screen.
ye the trumpet. You said what?
I can pull it up on the screen.
Con.
Yeah.
Joel chapter 2, verse 1. Blow ye the trumpet in Zion, and sound an alarm in my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of the Lord cometh, it is nigh at hand. Right? A day of darkness and of gloomness, a day of clouds and thick darkness as the morning spread upon the mountains, a great people and a strong, there hath not been ever the like, neither shall be any more after it, even to the years of many generations. Right? So the Lord's going to blow up a trumpet. In other words, an alarm, right? To notify mankind, everybody, the chosen, the unchosen, the wicked, the rich, the poor. There's going to be alarm, right? For everyone, really. Let the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of the Lord cometh, for he is nigh at hand. And we know the Lord is terrible. So when he comes before you, it's not going to be a good situation. Similar with David to the priests. Not that David, went to him with any harm, but he's coming in that spirit of I'm not messing around. Right? It's going to be a terrible day. You mind going down a little?
Con.
I'm going to jump further down to verse 9. They shall run to and fro in the city. They shall run upon the wall. They shall climb up upon the houses. They shall enter in at the windows like a thief. Go down a little. The earth shall quake before them. The heavens shall tremble. The sun and the moon shall be dark, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. Right? Esau's system, their whole world, their ecosystem is slowly, or quickly rather, turning dark. They're losing their rulership when the Lord returns. And when you read in verse 11, what I really want, and the Lord shall utter his voice before his army, for his camp is very great, for he is strong that executeth his word, for the day of the Lord is great and very terrible, and who can abide it? Right? And so a lot of these feast days, they foreshadow the Lord, even the Feast of Trumpets. So when we blow these trumpets, on another level, it also represents or foreshadows the Lord coming, and when he blow his trumpets. Because when you blow a trumpet, you shouldn't be real relaxed. It really makes you kind of on your toes. And that's the spirit you should be in, alert and aware. And understand that this is a serious thing.
That's right. That's right. That's why you have these feast days that are set up by Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Right? Let me get this in our First Thessalonians. Another thing about these trumpets. Yeah, I ain't trying to mute your mic, Salaki. Another thing about the trumpets is the trumpet is also, not only is it an alarm for war, but it's also an alarm to awake out of sleep. Because when that trumpet blows, the dead of Hamashiach are going to rise up out of the graves. And that's going to pretty much be that sound that kicks off the resurrection. All right, that's going to be that main sound that kicks off those who have fallen asleep in our Lord to rise up in that day. Right? This is 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 and 13. But I would not have you to be ignorant, brethren, concerning them which are asleep. They gave sorrow not even as others which have no hope. So the church of Thessalonica, they had some concerns about people that may have died in the truth. They may have thought that they had no hope, that they died and that was it, and there was no type of salvation that could come to them. Well, Paul got word of that. He was kind of addressing that in this epistle. Say, look, don't have sorrow in your heart about those who have fallen asleep or who have died in this truth. Verse 14. For if we believe that Yahushua died and rose again, even so them also, which sleep in Yahushua, will the Most High bring with him. Right? Meaning those who have died in truth. For this we say unto you by the word of the Lord, that we which are alive and remain until the coming of the Lord shall not prevent them which are asleep. For the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trump of the Most High, and the dead in Hamashiach shall rise first. So when that trump sounds, the dead in the Lord are going to rise first. You know, those who have given their life for this truth, those who may have died of natural causes, right? Those men that may have been murdered, right, innocently in the land of the living, those men and women, right, children, are going to be the first ones risen up out of the grave and the first ones caught up in the chariots, right? Then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air, and so shall we ever be with the Lord. Wherefore, comfort one another with these words. So you're supposed to comfort one another about those who die in his truth, exhorting them and reminding them that there is still hope and that those saints are going to be the first ones taken up in the chariots. When is that going to happen? With the trump of God. When that trumpet blows, then those who die in the truth are going to be risen up. All right. So another thing about that memorial is the resurrection, right? The resurrection of the saints. And that's literally going to happen. Saints are literally going to come up out the grave. A lot of brothers don't believe that. How is that going to happen? I thought they were dead. Is Esau going to help? Esau, he's not going to be able to do anything. No? Well, how are they going to do it? What happens if you don't have to ask all of those questions, man? Just know that it's written, and the Most High will get it done. And that's going to happen also at that trump. There will be a resurrection. Right? Let's go to John chapter 5. So there, like I said, there's a lot of different aspects that comes with the memorial of the blowing of the trumpets. All right. This is John chapter 5 and verse 25. Right? John chapter 5 and 25. Verily, verily, I say unto you, the hour is coming, and now is, when the dead shall hear the voice of the Son of God, and they that hear shall live. For as the Father hath life in himself, so hath he given to the Son to have life in himself, and hath given him authority to execute judgment also, because he is the Son of Man. So the Most High gave the judgment to his Son, right? Here's the point, verse 28 in John chapter 5. Marvel not at this, for the hour is coming, and the which all that are in the graves shall hear his voice, and they shall come forth, they that have done good unto the resurrection of life, and they that have done evil unto the resurrection of damnation. So there's going to be two separate lots, right? There's going to be one resurrection with two separate lots when that trumpet blows. So not only are the righteous going to be raised up to salvation when the trumpet blows, but the wicked are going to be raised up too. But they're going to be raised up just to be destroyed, right? That's going to happen. People are going to be risen up out the grave. They're going to look up, try to figure out what's going on. They might curse out the Most High, might pick up a rock, kind of throw it at a chariot, might stick their middle fingers up to the Lord. They might shake their hand at the Lord. Why'd you wake me up? Right? They might try to spit on the ground and scoff and stump their feet and fold their hands. It's going to be a lot of evil men that are going to be raised up, huh? Men huffing and puffing. And those men are going to be destroyed again. A second death. Right? It says, they that have done evil unto the resurrection of damnation. That's a horrible lot. To be raised again just to be destroyed. And that's part of, again, that's part of this trumpet being blown. Part of that trumpet being blown is the wicked are going to be raised up and then burnt with fire and brimstone. All right. Let's go to Luke chapter 14. This is St. Luke chapter 14 and verse 14. And thou shalt be blessed, for they cannot recompense thee, for thou shalt be recompensed at the resurrection of the just. So again, that's another precept showing that there are two separate lots in the resurrection. We read about the resurrection to damnation, and then you have the resurrection of the just. The just are those that are in the truth, those who are keeping the commandments, those that are built up in the faith. All right. Now,
I got a quick precept. Matthew 24 and 31. And it reads, and he shall send his angels with the sound of a trumpet, with a great sound of a trumpet. And they shall be and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. And that's when the Lord returns. Just to land back off what you were saying, it's even in Acts in the Daniel the 12th chapter, it speaks about that great day of men being resurrected, some to everlasting life, to some to hell.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right, man. And again, people are going to hear that, right? People are going to hear that, and when you blow your shofar, you got to have these things in your mind. And every brother should have a shofar, right? You can get one, from Amazon, right? It's probably $20, if that, Now, we've been put this out there when that feast day is through the Spirit, and we've even done videos on it, but hopefully brothers who don't have it can get one. If you can't, for whatever the case may be, then, it is what it is through the Spirit. But it's not a commandment to actually have one, but brothers you should get into the righteous acts and blow the shofar, right? Through the Spirit, huh? It may take time. Some brothers will take time to kind of get into it, but you got to kind of practice that thing. And the more you practice it, you'll kind of get into it. All right. Let's go to
real quick, in case brothers didn't know, a shofar specifically, I don't recommend getting a tuba.
Oh.
Or you said what?
Oh no, I thought you were showing yours.
Yeah, I'm good. Let me grab it.
Okay, Con. So Yardan's about to get you the hands-on in-depth breakdown about this shofar, right? Like I said, brother, I mean, you can get one, you can order one online. I don't think they kind of sell that thing in person, but you got it, King.
Con. For those who don't know, this is a shofar, right? It's gonna look like this. You can get them longer, right? Some brothers got so one brother in Detroit, he got the actual it's like a gazelle horn or something like that. It's mighty. Don't get a kazoo. Don't get a kazoo. Don't get the little thing what's that thing you twirl and make noise?
I don't even know. I don't know what that's called, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't get a kazoo. Don't get make a little origami. Yeah. Get a shofar. You want to be mighty in the Lord, right? It's not mighty blowing a kazoo or a tuba. I will blow it, but Esau gonna call the cops. What the hell's going on? They're gonna think it's war. That's how serious it is.
Yeah, and Jake, man, I've seen that kazoo at a feast day. Right? I've seen the kazoo. Right? They call it. I think the brother or King Paradise said it's called a noise maker. I think that's what it's actually called. That thing that you kind of turn around. Right? The Lord is not dealing with the noisemakers, man. Right? On a feast day. Right? So let me get this precept in First Corinthians. Right? The damn noisemaker. All right. That doesn't sound righteous at all. All right. Let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 15. right? This is First Corinthians chapter 15 and verse 50, right? Another aspect of it. It reads, now this I say, brethren, that flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of the Most High, neither doth corruption inherit incorruption. This means that your body that you have right now, this fleshly body, cannot walk up and down in the kingdom of heaven on earth. Why? Because flesh and blood is subject to sin. You shouldn't even want your flesh and blood, not that it will happen anyway, but to be in that kingdom. Because you go off, you think wicked thoughts, you may lust, you may lie, you may sin, commit folly, vanity, lewdness. So the Most High can't take this body into the world to come. He can't take a corruptible body that ages, that breaks down, that dies, that has heart attacks and itches, man. The Lord has to have an incorruptible body in that world to come, that you may glorify his name and praise him continually. Verse 51. Behold, I show you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed. Meaning everybody's not going to die in this truth, right? But everybody that's of the truth will be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump. For the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. You see that? So just like that, a snap of a finger, at the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump, because you're going to have 7 trumpets that sound on a spiritual level, right? And as each trumpet sounds, it's going to bring about more destruction. That's what you read about in the book of Revelation, the 8th chapter, the 9th chapter, right? You read about these different trumpets kind of sounding. And then one trumpet sounds and the nuclear missiles fall. Then the second trumpet sound and these nations are destroyed. Then there's the last trumpet. The last trump is when Yahweh Shah returns. That's the precept that Yaradan went into in Matthew chapter 24, 31 or down. Same thing in First Thessalonians chapter 4, 13 through 17. That's that same trump. So let me read this again. First Corinthians chapter 15 and 52. In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump, for the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. For this corruptible must put on incorruption, and this mortal must put on immortality. For when this corruptible shall have put on incorruption, and this mortal shall have put on immortality, then shall be brought to pass the saying that is written, death is swallowed up in victory. O death, where is thy sting? O grave, where is thy victory? So death is going to be destroyed as well at the last trump. And you're going to be beamed up in that chariot. When you get beamed up, the Lord is going to transform your body to a spiritual body. Still going to be, same. If you got brown skin, you got brown skin. If you have, lighter skin, you may have lighter skin. If you got dark brown, you're still going to have that same complexion. Doesn't mean you're going to, get shorter. There's no account of you being 30 inches taller, right? We don't know, right? We only know what's written, Doesn't mean every brother's going to grow an afro and a mighty beard instantly. That's not written, right? Are we saying it's not? It can't happen. We don't know. All we know is what's written, that the Most High said that the mortal must put on immortality, which means you're going to live forever in the kingdom. That's what immortality means. You're without mortality. You're without death. All right, that's why death is really one of the last enemies that's going to be destroyed. Right? Let's read this. Verse 56. The sting of death is sin, and the strength of sin is the law. Meaning you only die because you sin. All right? But if you have the laws in your inward parts, and you have entered into a new covenant, then you're not going to taste of death anymore because you won't sin anymore. Sin brings about death. You read about that in 2nd Ezra, the 4th chapter, and 2nd Ezra, the 3rd chapter, and 2nd Ezra, chapter 7. And when Adam transgressed my statutes, then was decreed that now is done. Then were the entrances of this world made narrow, full of peril and travail. Greatly paraphrasing. So that's what happens upon sin. Death enters in. But when you're raised up from the grave, death no longer has dominion over you. These death angels can't touch you anymore at the last trump. These demons no longer have effect over you. They can't influence you. They can't touch you. So that's why we are hastening the day of the Lord and that last trump, that we can make it up out of here. Right? So when you're dealing with this feast day, again, there's a lot that you want to take in. You want to meditate on these things. Let's go back to Leviticus chapter 23. Right? Leviticus chapter 23 and verse 23. It reads, "And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, And the 7th month, and the first day of the month, ye shall have a Sabbath, a memorial of blowing of trumpets and holy convocation. Ye shall do no servile work therein, but ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord." So this feast day falls so-called September 14th at sundown, right? September 14th at sundown. That would be this so-called Thursday, right? This so-called Thursday night at sundown. And again, it is indeed a holy convocation, right? Which means what? You should be gathering together, right? It's not a day where you just isolate yourself. Well, I'm taking a day off from people. I'm not a people person. You got to be a people person in this truth. When I say a people person, meaning you got to congregate. Don't mean you have to have 1,000 contacts in your phone, right? It just means you have to keep these commandments, right? You have to. It don't have to be 1,000 people. You can have a holy convocation with your 10 brothers. 5. Yahweh Bashim Yahushua said, "Hey, where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there am I in the midst of them." A lot of brothers, well, I don't have a holy convocation because it's not 300 of us. Well, it doesn't say 300 here. The Lord doesn't say a holy convocation is anywhere between 300 to 1,000. It's madness. But you are commanded to be around like-minded Israelites. Let me get this precept in Psalms, chapter 119. I believe I want 34, if I'm not mistaken, right? This is Psalms. Actually, I want 63. Psalm chapter 119 and verse 63. "I am a companion of all them that fear thee, and of them that keep thy precepts." So you want to be a companion. And the word companion, it means somebody that you eat bread with. Com meaning with, and panios goes back to the Latin word bread, right? So it really means somebody you eat bread with, somebody you break bread with, somebody that you have made a covenant with, that y'all have the same God, same beliefs, same expectations. That's your companion. David said, "I am a companion of all them that fear thee, and of them that keep thy precepts." So you want to have a holy convocation with your companions. You should be with people that fear the Most High, with people that keep thy precepts. All right, not holy convocation is not bringing your auntie, man, Auntie Shamika, right? Auntie Rochelle, because she heard it's going to be lamb there, right? Auntie Rochelle never had lamb before, but you cooking the lamb, so you brought her over, and she bringing her husband, her second husband, Rel. Right? You gotta call him Uncle Rel. Uncle Rel come in smelling like a black and mild, man. Right? And she got her little cousins, Pookie and Day Day, man. And Drake.
And he bad.
Yeah, and they bad, and they taking the shofar, and they pretend they shooting guns at each other. They taking the shofar, and they draw blood, man. They throw the shofar, man, they drawing blood, and they get that's madness. A holy cut. This is not the time. I repeat, this is not the time to bring Auntie Rochelle and Uncle Rel into the truth. They'll overthrow the whole feast day, man. He started taking your shofar, tapping his damn cigarette ashes in it, man. Love this ashtray, nephew. this ashtray right here. And he damn putting his damn cigarette ashes in your shofar. While you're slaving to cooking the lamb. Right? So you got to kind of be mindful of these things, man. Right? There's a time and place for everything. Now, that's not saying you can't tell, them about the truth and show them the commandments and, tell them that the Israelites, we got to come back to the Lord. Nobody's saying that, but during this feast day, remember, this is the highest new moon. This is the new moon, the seventh moon. Right? It's not just an ordinary day. Like you tell you in Ecclesiasticus, the 33rd chapter. Right? Let's go to Sirach, the 9th chapter. Right? I'm going to have to pull up this 16:11. Right? Let's go to Ecclesiasticus, the 9th chapter. So it is a holy convocation. It is not a solo day. It is not a day to discover yourself. Right? I just want to take this time to discover myself. Right? Well, you got to mark a brother like that. Right? This is Sirach chapter 9 and 16. It reads, "And let just men eat and drink with thee, and let thy glorying be in the fear of the Lord." So you're supposed to let just men eat and drink with you, man. Righteous men keep this feast day. Righteous brothers blow their shofars, man. Keep this new moon. Beautiful garments. If you can, you do what you can in righteousness. If you got a garment, throw a garment on, man. If you got the lamb, put the lamb on the grill. If you got it, you got to get into this thing. You got to get excited about these feast days, man. It shouldn't be a burden to you. Oh, I gotta blow my shofar. Oh,
I got asthma. I'm out of breath.
Yeah, you blowing your shofar, but you're giving a half job. The Lord is not dealing with that, man. See, the scriptures say that the joy of the Lord is your strength. You're only as strong in his truth as your joy is in his truth. Those that are weak in his truth are those who are not joyous of this truth. Those who don't feel like praying. Those who don't feel like reading. Those who don't feel like keeping the commandments. Those are the weak ones in this truth. The strong ones are those who love this thing. They live for this truth. It's not a chore or a burden, neither is it grievous. Let's go to Nehemiah, the 8th chapter. All right, you got to get excited. Hey, people in the world, man, they used to get excited for their so-called birthday. You was getting excited for Christmas, Thanksgiving, Halloween, New Year's. Jake, you was getting into it, man. You're supposed to, the Lord said in Baruch chapter 4 and 28, "For as it was your mind to go astray from the Lord, so being returned, seek him 10 times more." You're supposed to be 10 times more excited to keep the memorial blowing of the trumpets than you were for Thanksgiving. 10 times more excited to keep the feast days of the Lord than to keep these worldly holidays. Nehemiah chapter 8 and verse 1. I'll show you what happened on the memorial blowing of the trumpets. "And all the people gathered themselves together as one man into the gate, it's like into the street that was before the water gate. And they spake unto Ezra the scribe to bring the book of the law of Moses, which the Lord had commanded to Israel." Right? "And Ezra the priest brought the law before the congregation, both of men and women, and all that could hear with understanding, upon the first day of the 7th month." So this is what our forefathers did on the first day of the 7th month. They brought the law out. They brought the scriptures out. This is the memorial blowing of the trumpets. They're keeping the high holy day. Here's how they're keeping it. They're getting into the law of Moses. "And he read therein before the street that was before the water gate from the morning until midday, before the men and the women, and those that could understand. And the ears of all the people were attentive unto the book of the law." So you should be attentive to the law, attentive to the precepts on these days. Again, it's high holy day. It's not just the day that I'm gonna see how much wine I could drink, how much lamb I could eat. You turn into a food eating competition, right? You got your eating challenge. You know how you go to these places, they got the eating challenge. Can you eat the biggest damn fajita, man? And you got 30 minutes. And brothers do that. You got the biggest lamb. You eat the lamb session. It's a lamb, it's mac and cheese, it's 3 scoops of this, and you got to wash it down with a milkshake, man. It's not, and then drink 3 cups of wine. It's not a day of just folly and vanity, man. Our forefathers were attentive to the book of the law. They wasn't doing food eating challenges, right? They was getting to these scriptures. Verse 4. And Ezra, the scribe, stood upon a pulpit of wood, which they had made for the purpose. And beside him stood Mattathiah and Shema and Ananiah and Salakia and Uriah and Hilkiah and Maaseiah on his right hand. And on his left hand, Pedaiah and Mishael and Malchiah and Hashum and Hashbadana, Zechariah and Meshullam. So this was like a camp formation. When you see brothers at camp, it starts with the scriptures. You had the reader, you had the teacher, you had about 5 brothers on this line, you had about a few brothers on this line, right? Few and few. Remember, this is the memorial of the blowing of the trumpets. And Ezra opened the book in the sight of all the people, but he was above all the people. When he opened it, all the people, when he opened it, all the people stood up. And Ezra blessed the Lord. Right? And Ezra blessed the Lord, the great God. And all the people answered, Amen, Amen, lifting up their hands, and they bowed their heads and worshiped the Lord with their faces to the ground. So they bowed their head and they got into the spirit, and he worshiped the Lord. And Joshua and Benai and Sherebiah, Jamin, Akub, Shabbatai, Hudijah, Maaseiah, Kelida, Azariah, Jozabad, Hanan, Pelaiah, and the Levites caused the people to understand the law, and the people stood in their place. So they got into the scriptures before the feast day, or really before they, as you read this account, before they start drinking and eating, they got into the scriptures. They read, they prayed, and they went into the law. Then you'll find out, then they kind of start eating good and drinking the wine and start dealing into the festivities. But on your feast days, you should always get into the spiritual things first, right? The whole feast day should be spiritual, but you got to get into this word. This is a perfect example on how to go about this feast day. Nehemiah 8 and 8. So they read in the book and the law of God distinctly and gave the sense and caused them to understand the reading, right? It reads, and Nehemiah, which is the Tershatha, meaning the governor, and Ezra, the priest, the scribe, and the Levites that taught the people, said unto all the people, this day is holy unto the Lord your God. Mourn not, nor weep, for all the people wept when they heard the words of this law. So that day, even though that was a sincere weeping, crying because they heard the laws and the commandments, and this was a time of reformation and rebuilding, this is a day of mirth and joy. It's not really a day to be thinking about rent, mortgage, bills, right? It's not really a day to be thinking about, how you fell short 10 years ago, 4 years ago. The Lord said, mourn not, nor weep, man. Right? It's not a day to think about how you dropped the pass in 11th grade, man, for the game-winning touchdown. You're thinking about the spiritual things. All right? Verse 10. Then he said unto them, go your way, eat the fat, and drink the sweet. It doesn't mean eat actual fat. A lot of brothers, they use that. They said, when Nehemiah said we could eat fat, it's not talking about eating actual fat. Someone eating a great portion of meat. All right. I've seen that. Let me get this quick precept. Because brothers that get crafty. Speaking fat in the grizzle, man. Eating that grizzle. Fat back. Leviticus chapter 3 and 17. It shall be a perpetual statute for your generations throughout all your dwellings that ye neither eat fat nor blood. So it's not talking about fat. It's not talking about that grizzle. I had a so-called uncle say, well, that's the best part. That's the good part. Right? No eating fat or drinking blood. That's completely wicked. So when Nehemiah said eat the fat, it's talking about eating a great portion of meat. Have a feast. That's what it's saying. You know? Jake said loud, hey, he was living fat. Doesn't mean it's hip talk. All right. Go your way, eat the fat, drink the sweet. The sweet is the wine. It's not talking about Kool-Aid. Sugar water. Right? And send portions unto them for whom nothing is prepared. Meaning those who may not have food, you make sure that those brothers, they can eat too. Why? For this day is holy unto our Lord. Neither be a sorry, for the joy of the Lord is your strength. See that? So the Levites stilled all the people. So meaning stop crying, stop weeping. Right? Hey, hold your peace. Saying, hold your peace, for the day is holy. Neither be ye grieved. And all the people went to eat their way and to drink and to send portions and to make great mirth. So it's not a day of little mirth. A lot of brothers, they don't want to laugh. And they laugh on the side. Just try and hold it in. The Lord's not dealing with your giggles, man. Hey, it's a great mirth, man. It's not a day for you to fold your arms and surely oppression maketh the wise man mad, and the gift destroyeth the heart. You pulling Ezekiel chapter 9 on brothers, right? You don't have to mark. You're not sighing and crying for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. You're pulling Ezekiel 21 and 9 on down. The Lord sharpened his sword. Shall we then make mirth? You're taking scriptures out of context. You're going to Ecclesiastes 3. It's a time for mourning. Right? You're just pulling all these scriptures out of context, man. Don't bring that to the feast day, man. That you're going to throw off the whole spirit. You're just sitting around in a corner, frowned up. You know? Pulling Jeremiah 9 and 1 on down.
Ecclesiastes 7. You in the house of mirth? You ought to be in the house of mourning.
Yep. Telling brothers you should be in the house of mourning. It is better to mourn, for that is the end of all men. The Lord is with mirth and righteousness. Let me read this again. Nehemiah 8 and 12. You're reminding brothers about their rent. Don't be a demon. Don't you know you got to go to work tomorrow?
Yeah, why are you so happy? You got work tomorrow, brother. Rent right around the corner. Don't get too happy, Ock. Spending all this wine. What you doing? You digging in his pockets. Just did. Brother put his head down.
Yeah, not a brother upset, man. He reminding the brother that his grandmother passed. Ask him, do you think your father really loves you? Why do you think that your Deuteronomy 28:54? Hey, look, man. It says, and all the people went their way to eat and to drink and to send portions and to make great mirth. Pull up the definition of mirth. It's not talking about myrrh, oil. It says mirth. Amusement, especially as expressed in laughter. High spirits. So you got broken spirits, or you could be in high spirits. Right? You got sorrowful spirits, you got high spirits. And let me explain this high spirits. Because Jake, I can see it now. Well, the brother said that we got to be in high spirits. It's talking about joy and happiness. You always got to clarify with Israel. Right? Because I can see it now. right? The high spirits is talking about being in joy and mirth. Okay, mirthfulness, cheerfulness, cheeriness, cheer, laughter, glee, euphoria, euphoria, man. You want to be in euphoria on a feast day, right? Let's see what else we got. Pleasure, merrymaking, jollity, joy, right? These are the things you want to kind of get into. What's some opposites? Hold on. What's the so-called antonyms? Hold on. What's the opposite? Gloom, misery. So you shouldn't be dwelling on gloom and misery, man. Or you should be dwelling on the feast day and mirth and gladness. It's okay to dance. It's okay to sing. It's okay to laugh, brother. It's okay to dance with your woman. Dance with your children, man. Blow that shofar. Hey, brother, hey, look, man. Brother got a little cup of wine. Oh, no, 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 no. Brother, drink. Hey, it's okay to have a full cup of wine. Don't be a drunkard, but it's all right to get a full cup of wine, man. Oh, I don't want to eat no lamb. Kind of just, I'm not, I'm not, I'm not righteous enough to eat the lamb. I ain't nobody. All right, I'm just dust and ashes. I'll eat the herbs of the field. So the brother pick up the grass and eat the flowers of the field and sit down and stoned like Ezra. Brother, eat the lamb, brother. Get 2 pieces. Oh, I don't want to get no cake. I don't want to. Hey, look, man. This is a day of mirth and high spirits. Let's go back to this. Right? Nehemiah chapter 8 and 12. Right? It reads, and all the people went their way to eat and to drink and to send portions and to make great mirth. Why? Because they had understood the words that were declared unto them. And that is a reason to make mirth. It's not always, okay, I hit the lottery. I want to make mirth. I got married. I want to make mirth. Right? I got a promotion. I want to make mirth. I bought a new car. I want to make mirth. They made mirth because they understood the words that were declared unto them. Don't we understand the words that are declared unto us? Don't we know about Yahweh? Right? His son Yahweh Shai? Laws, statutes, commandments, repentance, faith, hope, charity, mercy. Don't we know these things? How to love one another? Who our enemies are? If knowing your enemy, that's great mirth. You finally know who Esau is, man. Who would have thought? Before you came in this truth, there was a people called the Edomites. That you're an Israelite, huh? That the Most High's named Yahweh. His son names Yahweh Shai. You gotta rejoice over to know that, man. You know about the chariots. You know about judgment. You know about Armageddon, right? You know about, like I said, repentance, the laws, the fringes, the dietary laws and commandments, the high holy days. There are things that you know that 99% of the world does not know. This is a secret. You should be in great mirth that you're in this truth. And Yahweh Shah said that many righteous men have desired to see those things which they see. All right, let's get that. Matthew 13. Matthew chapter 13 and verse 16. But blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. For verily I say unto you, that many prophets and righteous men have desired to see those things which they see and have not seen them, and to hear those things which they hear and have not heard them. So there are men that have longed to live the life that we're living. It's like to see the things that we're seeing. And then here we are, we have an opportunity to even be in this truth, man. That's a sign, that's a day of joy and gladness. You got it.
We still see brothers on the highways and byways. They say, "Well, I'm still figuring it out. I'm still looking to it." I'm still searching, for what my life is. I still hear my uncle say, "Well, look, we don't know yet. We do know. It's right in front of us. We know 100%, right? Not the scriptures is in its entirety, but one thing we do know is that we're Israelites, right? We know who the enemy of the Lord is. We know how to please the Lord. We know the ramifications for displeasing the Lord. We know a great deal, through the spirit and power of Yahweh by Shemi Hawashai. And so it says in Deuteronomy 31 and 20, or 30 and 20, that thou mayest love the Lord thy God, and that thou mayest obey his voice. Right? So you love him by obeying his voice. So if he said, hey, be mirthful, right, through the spirit, then you have to be mirthful. If he said, hey, today's the time to mourn, then you ought to mourn.
Right.
Right? But seeing that this beautiful feast day is coming up, where it's really meant to be joyful, then be joyful. Right? And if you're joyful, then you can say, well, I love the Lord this day. That thou mayest love the Lord thy God, and that thou mayest obey his voice, and that thou mayest cleave unto him,
Where
for
you
he
at,
is thy
Yard?
life. You said what?
Where you at?
Deuteronomy 30 and 20.
Nah, block it.
Down. Deuteronomy 30 and 20, and it reads, that thou mayest love the Lord thy God, and that thou mayest obey his voice, and that thou mayest cleave unto him, for he is thy life. People say, well, money's my life. Somebody said that last week. They said, well, money's my life. We asked him his nationality. He said, well, money. Sometimes money is people's lives, the blunt is people's lives. We've heard people say, I'm a blunt. When we ask them their name, he said, I'm a blunt. Not I'm a be blunt, but I'm a blunt. We've heard people say, well, I'm a cat. We've heard strange things, right? But you have to acknowledge that the Lord is your life. He's going to give you blessings. And if you're, performing terrible in his eyes, he's going to give you curses. But nevertheless, for he is thy life and the length of thy days, that thou mayest dwell in the land which the Lord swore unto thy fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give them. Right? But the main point is you ought to love the Lord by obeying his voice. And so with that being said, whatever commandment and or time or season is wherein, fulfill what's required of that time and season. So again, Feast of the Trumpets, that's like blowing the trumpets is approaching. So get in the spirit of blowing of the trumpets and making mirth, drinking and merriness. If I see a brother with no cup in his hand, I'm gonna get him. I'm gonna be a little upset. I don't want to see a brother drinking water. Scripture said drink sweet, you know, but in righteousness. I don't want Jake to kind of just have a brown paper bag and then there's yan yan in there. Said drink sweet. You said it. You said it. I've heard you. You said it right here at 2 hour minute mark in 3 minutes. And you got the brown paper bag. You just take a swig after swig. Don't do that. Right? You still want to move in wisdom. Scriptures give you a insight on that as well in Sirach. Right? You're in a brown bag. You're gonna look like a drunkard. Let's be honest, you're gonna look like an a-hole. With that drunk like a pervert. That's like the wasn't that movie Crooklyn? Where they had the brown paper bag, but I think they was doing other stuff with it.
Yeah, they was doing other stuff with it.
Okay. Yeah, you're gonna be like that guy, that slob. So you have to have wisdom. You gotta have wisdom when you read the scriptures, of course. You must have wisdom. We have to stress it because Israel, when we hear, they take it there. Right? They get what's that thing with the three X's? Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
Yep, moonshine. That's right. That's right, man. So hey, look, man, like the brother's going into, you got to do things in moderation too, right? Don't a lot of see we got to clarify. You may say, well, why do you have to take it there? I know that a lot of brothers don't know that. Some brothers are new. They might say, "Oh, the brother said drink the sweet. Oh yeah, you know." Brother said full of mirth. Brother, you got to still have discretion, right? Still got to have discretion. So remember, it is a Sabbath day, right? Which means no buying anything. So you buy what you need to buy before that feast day start. Before Thursday night at sundown, buy what you need to buy. Because guess what? Thursday night at sundown to Friday night at sundown is a Sabbath day. That is the memorial of the blowing of the trumpets. Then Friday sundown until Saturday sundown is your weekly Sabbath. So you're going to have back-to-back days when you will not be able to buy or sell. All right. So when you keep that feast day, you got to be prudent. Right? Let's go to Proverbs. Right? There's a lot you got to kind of make sure that you get done. All right. Proverbs 22:3. A prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself, but the simple pass on and are punished. Right? So we want to make sure you got everything lined up for the Shabbat, because a lot of brothers wait till like Friday morning to kind of get stuff Friday afternoon. You can't buy anything. You're still going to be into that Sabbath. It's still going to be that feast day. So you're going to transition straight from that feast day straight into the Shabbat. That's how I was going to roll. Straight from your feast day, memorial blowing of the trumpets. As soon as that sun go down, it's the Sabbath. All right, so you got to be cognizant of these things too, right? How these days operate, the cycles, the weekly Shabbat, right? Your feast days, right? How they may run independent one of another, but then they may also run, back to back too. You got to kind of foresee that and deal with your affairs. Let me get this in Psalms, right? Chapter 112 real quick. Psalm chapter 112 and verse 5. A good man showeth favor and lendeth. He will guide his affairs with discretion. So a wise man is going to guide his affairs with discretion. He's going to move in a wise, discreet manner and make sure things are done decently and in order. So again, get what you need to get, and buy what you need to buy, sell what you need to sell. Remember, on this feast day, you can cook, right? It is a feast day. And it's the memorial of the blowing of the trumpets, And then you got 10 days after, it's the Day of Atonement. Or 9 days after, it's the Day of Atonement. So we got to touch on that too. Right? You got the memorial blowing of the trumpets. You got a quick turnaround, and you got the Day of Atonement that draws nigh as well. The Day of Atonement is September 23rd at sundown until September 24th at sundown. That is a Saturday night. So that means on that time, just to put that into perspective, that's Friday night at sundown until Saturday night at sundown is your weekly Sabbath. And then Saturday night, once that kicks in, it's the Day of Atonement. Right? So you want to prepare and plan accordingly for these feast days, because you're going to have back-to-back feast days which you have a so-called double Sabbath. Right? Back-to-back feast days. So you got to be aware of these feast days, how they operate. It's highly spiritual. So our brothers say HBKN, it's a heavy month. It's a lot going on in the 7th month. It's going, and also too, let me go to 1 Peter 5:8. It's going to be a lot of spirits looming. A lot of spirits going to be looming in the 7th month to offset the righteousness that brothers are going to prepare to be in. And you got to say, this is going to be a lot of demons coming too. You got to be aware of that. All right, this is spiritual warfare. This is the time that kings go forth to battle. Right? And don't be caught up in an ambush by the spiritual demon Satan. 1 Peter chapter 5:8. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. Whom resist, steadfast in the faith, knowing that the same afflictions are accomplished in your brethren that are in the world. So also be aware of these spirits, right? The Lord said, if thou come to serve the Lord, prepare thy soul for temptation. Set thy heart aright and constantly endure. So now look, okay, I know these feast days are coming up, these Sabbath and the feast days and the Feast of Trumpets, Day of Atonement, then another Sabbath, then Feast of Tabernacles after that. I got to be aware. Let me arm myself spiritually. I know these demons are going to try to plague my mind with grudges and folly and vanity and pride and lust and sin and sex and madness and sadness and depression. Demon may try to make me depressed right before the feast day, discord, and you got to be aware of these things, right? And rise above, rise to the occasion, push to the limits to stand in spirit, man. Forgive when it's time to forgive. Wink at ignorance when it's time to wink at ignorance, right? Defer and pass over particular transgressions. You understand? Don't entertain all of these lust demons and these spirits on any day. You know, these are the things we also have to be aware of on the days of the high holy days or the high holy days, right? And the days of the Lord, man. Right? Y'all done? You got anything else? We bring out closing precepts.
I got a closing precept.
Time.
Sirach chapter 35, verse 3. And it reads this: To depart from wickedness is a thing pleasing to the Lord, and to forsake unrighteousness is a propitiation. Thou should not appear empty before the Lord, right? And this is a joyous feast day approaching. So you shouldn't appear empty before the Lord. You have to bring yourself, you got to bring yan, you got to bring and provide. You don't want to appear empty before the Lord. It's a feast day, you're supposed to eat, right? This is all for the Lord, really. But with that, I yield.
I'm gonna go to the classic, right? This is the book of Revelation, chapter 22 and verse 12. And behold, I come quickly, and my reward is with me to give every man according as his work shall be. Right? So the Lord is going to render unto every man according as his work shall be. So brothers got to fight these temptations. Don't give your strength over to folly and vanity. Right? Remember to stay in the spirit. Right? Seek out these precepts, seek out the laws, the statutes, and the commandments, and get into the word to the Most High and the days of the Lord. Be mindful of the prophecies that are at hand. Be mindful of the judgments of the earth. I mean, the judgments that the Most High is putting on the earth. And remember to stay steadfast and unmovable and always abounding in the work of the Lord. So with that, we're going to close up, giving, of course, all honor and all glory to Yahweh. By Shema Mashiach, like Shai, we'll open up the floor for questions like we always do. For those, right, it's 213-603-9096. We always do the conference call. The PIN number is 94809-305. Right, but with that, Brother Naquam,
Brother Yardan,
from Yasha, Shalom.
Shalom.